This is A New Nigeria with Wale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine the strategic issues that bedevil Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer simple, practical, but audacious ideas on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. On today's episode of the program, I have a guest with whom we shall be examining the state of our dear nation, Nigeria. Before then, here's my take on President Obasanjo and his fallacy of homegrown democracy. I have watched and listened to former President Olusegun Obasanjo on his suggestions that we Africans find a more suitable government system or model that works best for us and is more relatable to our history and culture. Now, this is not the first time he's making this suggestion. And the more I reflect deeply on this, the more I find it rather disturbing and simply preposterous. First, let me acknowledge President Olusegun Obasanjo as the best leader yet at the presidential level in this fourth republic, even if it's a case of comparing pineapples with lemons. Now, let me state, and for the upteenth time too, what is wrong with Nigeria isn't the system of government. What is wrong with Nigeria and Africa by extension are the kinds of leaders we have had and for successive generations, period. We can change systems all we want and still remain the same or perhaps get worse, since nothing remains static in nature. It is like a typical African changing clothes and believing that makes him different. He may wear a kimono, he may wear a sari, or even a three-piece suit, or whatever, and still remain the same. The hood, after all, as they said, doesn't make the monk. My point here is that systems of government isn't necessarily a warranty for good governance or responsible government. So, what makes any system of government work and deliver for the citizens' best interest? For instance, democracy works only when it is practiced by decent, honorable, and patriotic citizens. The 2020 United States presidential elections and its aftermath validates this. America almost regressed into fascism, and what saved it wasn't its military might or sophisticated intelligence apparatus. Rather, it was the patriotism of a few good men and women who chose the love of country over party affiliation and personal interest. Again, just a couple of months ago, we all are witnesses to how the people of the tiny West African nation, Senegal, their military, the police, and critically, their judiciary, stood firm and resisted an aspiring sit-tight leader. Also, at the just concluded South African elections, in which the ruling African National Congress, for the first time since 1994, didn't sweep the polls and couldn't manipulate the outcomes. The entire process was conducted in the open for the world to see. It wasn't a deliberately complicated, corrupted, and manipulated process as it was the case in Nigeria in 2023. Now, socialism or communism is working in China and Vietnam. Monarchy is working all over Europe, in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, etc. Iran is a theocracy, and after decades of crushing United States-led economic sanctions, the citizens of Iran still love their leaders. Also, the United Kingdom's parliamentary system of government was established in 1707. That is well over 300 years ago. The United States presidential system is 248 years this year. India is 74 years. India's constitution is 74 years old. Chinese socialist constitution is 70 years old this year. None of these countries have jettisoned what they have, however imperfect it is. It is only Nigeria, after a mere 25 years, that is calling for a change of constitution. Interestingly, I used to think and believe in similar fashion, but not anymore. I guess that is the beauty and power of intellection. The charade of 2023 general elections proved to me beyond any reasonable doubt and quite profoundly, that even if angels come down to Nigeria, author and deliver a brand new constitution, their chances of success are extremely slim. Why? We are a totally morally bankrupt society. And this wouldn't be the first of such, because if God judged the biblical nations of Sodom and Gomorrah, then why not Nigeria? By every standard, Nigeria is way beyond those nations in moral depravity and corruption. Actually, we make those nations look like saints in comparison. So, I conclude. I urge President Olusegun Obasanjo to use his incredible public capital to chastise bad leaders and demand for responsible practices by these in Nigeria and all over Africa. That is the least expected, and indeed what he owes, this much blighted continent that is made in the image of an egregiously incompetent, totally corrupt, and visionless ruling class. And that's my take. We'll take this short break, and when I come back, we'll get into the conversation with my guests. Please stay with us. Welcome back. My guest today is Professor Usman Yusuf, former Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, then as it was, and also is a professor of hematology, oncology, and bone marrow transplantation. Prof, good evening.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Good.
Good to see you again.
It's the second time here.
Yes, second time in quick succession. Well, it's the demand of the times. Nice to have you again, Prof.
Thank you.
And thank you for honoring my invite as usual.
Thank you.
Where do we start from? Okay, happy Salah.
Thank you.
It's just a couple of days
Yes,
after
yes.
Salah.
Thank you.
I guess my meat, you came with my meat, I'll collect my Salah meat. Let's start from there. How did our Muslim Ummah, how did you guys cope with the food inflation, skyrocketing prices of food and meat and all of that?
Yeah, it's real. I mean, all over the place. I mean, we're here in Abuja complaining, but go to the hinterland and see how people are truly suffering.
Wow.
I mean, I've seen many settlers in my life, but this is one of the most where you don't have stuff. People, is bad. All over the country. And it's only when you get out of Abuja and go to the hinterland you realize how much people are suffering. I mean, even here in Abuja, each time my wife goes to the market, she says, things have doubled, tripled in just 2 weeks. So inflation is real, and the government needs to find a way to bring things down. Food inflation is a national security issue that needs to be addressed. Seriously, we are 40% the last month or two. We don't know how high it is now. So it's real. People cannot eat. There can never be peace in this country. Government needs to listen and stop all this talking they're doing.
I'm surprised you said, because even in Abuja, it's, I mean, the pain, the complaints is everywhere. So I can only wonder what the situation is in the hinterland.
It's very bad. It's truly. And it's not only here, it's all over the country you go to. So we need to, once every so often, especially those who are leaders riding around in big black SUVs, they need to go home and see how people are suffering.
Exactly. And this ties into, there's the wage or salary increase debate, minimum wage issue going on between the federal government and labor, organized labor, TUC, NLC. They said the federal government, of course, set up a tripartite committee, and then they got to a stalemate. So they had this 1 day or 2 days strike, which was, thankfully, I don't know whether to say thankfully or mercifully, called off. But then that's sort of Damocles, as it were, still hanging over our heads, because Labour didn't call it off, as it were. They said it's temporarily just a suspension to see if governments would have, come back with something. But then the president says, the federal government says only 62,000. But where I'm going to is that the state governors say they can't pay 60. So if minimum wage, 30,000, people are suffering like this, and then we're saying we can't pay 60,000. In the first place, Prof, do you think we cannot afford 60,000 minimum wage?
We can afford more. So front page newspaper, in 3 months, 30 governors in this land of plenty.
I think my producer will have
Right.
that, and we'll put it on the screen as you're
in
speaking.
3 months, 30 governors in this country expended over 980 something
Absolutely.
billion,
Absolutely.
close to $1 trillion
Absolutely.
for their creature comfort.
Just refreshments.
Refreshments and all this stuff for their creature comfort. And then they say they don't have money to pay people. Of all the 70 whatever million Nigerians that are workers, I was reading in the newspapers, only about 5.3 million will be affected by this minimum wage. And 15 states in this country are not paying minimum wage. In the Southeast, only one state. In the Southeast, only one state. And I was surprised to find out, even the South-South, oil-rich states, 2 states are not paying.
Federal allocation, 13% derivation,
2 states are
and
not
all
paying.
sort of other internally generated revenue.
In the South-South, 2 states are not paying. In the Northwest, two states are not paying. In the North-Central, 3 states. In the Northeast, 4 states are not paying. And in the Southeast, of the 5 states, only 1 is paying. Zamfara State, the governor said it the other day, they've been paying 7,000. And you expect, no, you tie that to the reality in Zamfara State.
We'll get to that, but before we leave, let's focus more on this. We'll get to that shortly. How is Governor Obaseki of Edo State able to come out and say, I'm saying like a month ago, without any prodding from anybody? Yeah, some would allude to maybe it's political season, whatever it is. Zamfara, Edo State was actually paying 40,000 minimum wage. Now they've started paying 70,000. And this is not an oil-rich state, even though it's part of the South, but I don't think it's like Delta. It's not as oil-rich as Delta or Bayelsa or Akwa Ibom. Prof, what's going on?
Look, our politicians know, from the president down, there is enough money in this country to educate our children, to give us good health care, and to pay people a living wage. They know that. They know that. They are here living large. In Abuja, 21 billion was spent, sharp, to build a house
15 billion.
For a vice president.
7 was spent before,
so for a vice president.
Mansion.
Right. That's our priority. And now they are talking about buying brand new aircrafts for the president and vice president.
We'll come to it.
So what I'm saying, the recklessness in government, both federal and state government, and people are watching, and you say we cannot pay 30,000, or even 60,000 is not a living wage in this country where the price of a bag of rice is 60,000.
What would you consider to be reasonable between Labour and federal government?
I mean, and this is something they have to talk between.
Yes, but we're just talking now. What would you suggest?
If a bag of rice is selling at
80,000.
If a bag of rice is selling at 80,000, then you give a person, a leader of a household who has a wife and 4 children,
Absolutely.
you give me 60,000 and you think you're doing me a favor, and you're giving yourself billions to buy SUVs? Come on. Government needs to be reasonable. Cut down the cost of governance in all tiers of government and pay our workers a living wage. End of story.
Points noted. Some have suggested, I heard some did some sort of statistics and said 120, 100, 105.
Yeah. The thing is, the government, especially the president, is asking us to make sacrifices, and he's not. There's a front page of Daily Trust yesterday is Nigerians are asking you to lead by example. You want us to make sacrifices, let us see you make sacrifices. But none of them are making sacrifices. They say, practice what you preach.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can let that rest, at least for now. Let's get into let's sink our teeth into the meat of this conversation. Last week, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Dauda Lawal, governor of Zamfara State, on national TV, said to the whole, it was the anniversary of May 20 or something. He said, whenever they apprehend bandits in Zamfara and they hand them over to security agencies, they bring them to Abuja. clean them up, and set them loose again. And that if the necessary political will was demonstrated, the issue of banditry in Zamfara can be quashed in 2 weeks. He said it. All the newspapers carried it the next day. And he was asked frontally that, the Minister for State for Defense, never mind the substantive minister himself is from Jigawa State, but the Minister for State is a former governor of Zamfara and is a Minister for State. That what's the benefit? He said no benefit, zero benefits. What's going on? And there has been no rebuttal from any of the agencies as to the very grievous, very grave allegations made by the governor of Zamfara. What's going on?
Yeah, and he also said he went to the president, had a one-on-one with him.
Yes.
And he said when he talked to the president was not properly, accurately briefed about the security situation in Zamfara.
What's going on?
So, look, let me tell you, Zamfara is near and dear to me because
Absolutely.
that is where I spent my formative years, secondary school. I went to government secondary school, Gusau, 72 to 76. So it's near and dear to me. Katsina is my birthplace, is my home. And Katsina and Zamfara, they are all in a mess. What he has said, we've been saying it long before he came to that place, that Zamfara is the epicenter of banditry. Banditry HQ is Zamfara. Over 70% of bandits in this country, they have their return address in Zamfara. We've been saying that. So him saying it is just a new entrant into this. We have been around, we've been involved in this banditry issue for the past 5-6 years.
What's going on?
Going into forests all
but
over
what is
the
going
place.
on? What's the crux of
Right,
this
so
issue?
this is the reality now. The reality is we have a governor who is fighting with his former governor, who is the Minister of Defense. So how can they work together? Wherever he goes, that is their fight. So it's a political fight between them at the expense of our people. How can a governor, and he said it, how can a governor take care of insecurity in the state without the center helping him? How can? You can't do that. And let me tell you, these new governors, they go to their people and say, no dialogue, and people are yelling and screaming, yes, yes, and they come to Abuja and scream and say, oh, they don't have they don't have any authority over any security agencies. Didn't you know that before you went and keep talking to your people? No governor has any control over even the yellow fevers, class of civil defense, police, or the military. He says he gives orders and people come from Abuja, and didn't you know that? So a governor in a troubled spot that has no control over security agencies, what are his options? What are his options?
But Prof, you know, what I want us to...
And he has a lot of options, really does.
Yeah, but one of the options I would presume you are alluding to, he did set up community guards, something like that. But apparently, they've not been effective.
I've said it in public television, the setting up of these militias by these states is the wrong step. It's only fueling the bloodshed.
But it's worked in some places.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't.
No. Southwest people will disagree with you vehemently.
I'm in the Northwest. What
Borno,
happens? No,
Joint JTF
let me
will
tell
disagree
you,
with you.
I don't know about what's happening in the Southwest or Southeast.
Amotekun in the Southwest is working.
Or banditry, or Boko Haram. Banditry is what I know.
Yeah.
It's what I've invested my time. We went to 9 states in this country. We've talked to the military, the highest level of the military, all the service chiefs. We've talked to the bad guys. We've talked to Nsakai militia, the traditional rulers. We've been to places where no politician has been, no military has been. We've talked to people where no politician or no general has been, because we have invested our time to understand. We are doctors. If you do not have a diagnosis, there is no way you can write a treatment. And all they are doing is they are making a treatment without diagnosis. A conflict that has been going on for 9 years, that the military, Air Force, Navy, police has not been able to to control over 9 years, you think community guards will? You think community guards will? We have told them repeatedly, and the military, banditry is different from all these conflicts. Banditry is a social problem that has been allowed to morph into this criminality you see. It's not a military problem, and it can never be won on the battlefield. We are increasingly militarizing what essentially is a social problem. What we can solve through dialogue. So for a governor to come and say no dialogue, then what are your options? Your option is to continue fighting. Guess what? What has President Muhammadu Buhari been doing for the last 8 years? Sleeping, he's been fighting. So you've been doing something for 8, 9 years. You are where you are today, and you're going to do it with your community guards. We are increasingly militarizing what is essentially a social problem. Our call is to demilitarize this and go into negotiations and dialogue. There's dialogue in the Ukraine. There's dialogue in Gaza Strip. There has been dialogue in Afghanistan, everywhere. So for a governor to say no dialogue, he's only playing to the gallery and allowing his people to continue to be killed.
Prof, I hear you, and I'm sure Nigerians are listening. The counter-narrative or the counter-argument to this strong position, I've heard this, but the counter-argument is that, number one, this is a crime. These are criminals committing heinous crimes, taking lives, plundering the resources that belongs to the federal government, not just the states. So if you say we enter into dialogue with them, first question, who are these people? Are they known? What are actually, the first question, what are they actually fighting for? Good. What are they fighting for?
So you don't
know ideology.
Good. What I'm saying, so you don't know all of this? You're fighting, what are you fighting? What the governor of Zamfara was saying, that he doesn't understand this conflict, is exactly the same thing that the President Muhammadu Buhari, the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, said at the palace of his royal, of His Eminence, that all the conflicts in this country, it is mandatory, he doesn't understand. We were sitting with my wife, she said, this is the problem. If the Commander-in-Chief does not understand a conflict, number one, why haven't his national security advisors make him understand? If you do not understand, then what's your aim point? How do you define success? So you don't understand. They don't fall from the sky. We know them. We know where they are. We have met with them. And all the governors know them. The military know them and know where they are.
What are they fighting for? No, the next question, Prof.
So what they are, no, this is an old story.
Yeah.
This is not.
No, let's refresh the minds of Nigerians.
No,
what's the point? What's the issue?
I told you this is morphed into criminality.
Yes, it's a social problem.
Everybody that lives in Zamfara or the north knows about the injustices done to this Fulanis that has morphed into this. We do not go back and solve that problem. We are buying Tucano jets.
Let me throw this in. Some would say clearly that this is not a social problem. This is economic crisis, that people are exploiting the mineral resources in Zamfara for personal advantage or benefits, and hiding under banditry and whatever.
No, people don't understand, and this is what I talk to people. People from elsewhere, they are just interlopers that do not understand this thing. Like let
me ask this last before we move on from this. What steps, Prof, have you taken? What practical steps have you taken to reach out to those in authority? Not President Muhammadu Buhari, because he's gone now. We have a new sheriff in town in terms of President Tinubu, Dauda Lawal. Have you reached out to Governor Dauda Lawal? At least that's the first port of call. Have you reached out to President Tinubu? You are a highly placed Nigerian.
No.
If you go to the villa, you'll get an appointment to see the president.
What I'm saying, for
Dauda Lawal, you can see Dauda Lawal, I believe.
For what?
Yeah, to tell him some of these things.
There is no governor in the north that does not know what we did. There is no military general.
This is a new governor.
No,
Prof.
There is no military general from the CDS down that does not know.
You mean this current CDS?
Absolutely.
The current chief of army?
Current chief of army. That does not know.
No, I'm coming.
They know. They all know.
No, have you met him? Have you made effort to meet him?
Look,
and then the president?
Look, there is nothing. The NSA, everybody know what we did.
Exactly, the NSA knew about it. I'm sure it's your friend.
Look, everybody knew what we did.
You and ABU with NSA about the same time.
He was a few years behind me. But besides the point is there is nobody in this country that does not know what we did. what we're advocating for,
maybe we're
what
just
we
assuming they
stand.
did. Maybe they don't know.
No, then they're not doing their homework. They're not being advised. They know. I know they know.
I had a former minister, Solomon Dalong, here, who told me when he met President Buhari one-on-one and briefed him on what is the cause of the ethnic killings in Plateau State and gave me a detailed analysis. President Buhari confirmed to Solomon Dalong, confessed rather, that was the first time he was hearing that from anybody.
Right.
So the issue of the security apparatus not correctly briefing the CNC is not new to me.
Okay. No. So let me tell you.
Yeah.
This is the reality. From the military hierarchy to the bandits, to all the governors, they know this is not a military problem and it cannot be won on the battlefield. Even the NSA, they know that. These are facts they know.
So
how
finally,
do we?
Why are they continuing with
right,
in the military trajectory?
So get them.
Why?
Get them and ask
No,
them.
You hazard a guess.
I've
Hazard
said
a
it.
guess.
I have never been shy. Never been shy
Yeah.
about
Just tell us.
saying
Why?
No, saying what the problems are and where we need to go. But increasing militarization of this conflict will get us nowhere. We're only increasing bloodshed.
Because apparently it hasn't.
Look, let me show you. I asked my staff to. This is our story in the north. We are burying our dead every day. The military and the civilians. This is what we are doing. Every day of our lives. Soldiers are being killed. People are being killed. Every day. This is our story. Leaders know that. Leaders know that. This, fellow Nigerians, I've been saying there is hunger.
Nigerians, because this looks like
they are Nigerians.
Wow.
Fellow Nigerians, I've been saying there is hunger in the land. This has been corroborated by Medicine Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. They are raising the alarm that in northern Nigeria they have seen 200% spike in the number of patients, number of children admitted for malnutrition. This in the last year.
These are Nigerian kids, Prof.
They are Nigerians.
Wow.
I'm a doctor, and we see that every doctor will tell you this is what we see in our hospitals. This is marasmus.
This is heart-wrenching.
Right. In a country where we are not at war, where you see this in the Sudan, in Yemen, in this, but we see this. We are increasingly seeing this. Medicine Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, they are raising alarm. I want to prick the conscience of all our leaders, from the president, governors, and members of our National Assembly. We cannot, and must not take our eyes off of this. God Almighty will ask each and every one of us. This is what we see in war-torn areas, but we are seeing increasingly, Doctors Without Borders have said 100% increase in children that have marasmus in northern Nigeria.
I think your point is well taken. Prof, let's take a short break, then we'll come back and continue. We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Prof, before we went on that short break, and I agree with you entirely, those pictures are harrowing for me to look at. And I do hope it pricks the consciences of our leaders and know that beyond all these razzmatazz and showiness we're carrying on in Abuja, people are dying in the hinterland. Even in Abuja, in the outskirts, people are dying every day. Prof, let's shift gears and move away from that. There's a debate in the National Assembly. I think there's a bill, a proposed bill. It's past second reading on ban on open grazing of cattle, but that Nigeria should adopt cattle ranching rather than open cattle grazing and all of that. And there's a curious angle to it, which says only states that are willing to adopt cattle ranching should. I mean, they want to put that in the proposed bill. What's your take on this?
Right.
Because I've seen feedback or blowback from some northern leaders. In fact, at the day in the Senate, Governor Aliero, former Governor Senator Aliero, objected strongly Former Governor Danjuma Goje, Senator, in fact, he brought another dimension by saying the Fulani headers haven't been educated. And I was saying to myself, come on, I mean, it's not the role of federal, whose job is it to educate the headers? It's the states for whatever. Anyway, what's your views
Right.
as a northerner and as a Fulani yourself?
Right. So who presented that bill to the floor?
I think a senator from Plateau, if I'm not mistaken.
No, from Benue.
From Benue, yeah, one of those north centers.
Right.
Yeah,
So
Benue.
this is a replica. It's a replica of the anti-grazing bill that the previous governor, Sam Autumn,
in Benue State.
presented in,
Yeah, but
in
can you
Benue.
fault him for that?
No.
If he's the one proposing it.
No. So let him ask himself, how market? How
No.
did it do in Benue?
That would not be a fair
No, it's a fair.
response.
No,
it's not fair.
I will ask you.
Yeah.
What was the consequence of that bill?
Continued bloodshed
So
and
you,
killings.
So you want to do that again here?
That is why the bill is
Right.
being sponsored, to make it national. And I think what calmer heads, like you and I are talking here, across Nigeria, is to find a meeting point.
Right.
That's what I'm asking you. So,
Right.
Prof, what's the way forward?
And so the federal government does not have that authority to make laws for the states.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And we need responsible members of the House of Assembly to know what is right, what is wrong. If you read excerpts of that bill, the states should be mandated to open ranching, but should not be imposed on states or communities that do not have Fulanis as citizens.
What do you have against that?
Right. So I will say the governor of Kano State will say, oh, we will not allow this for people that are not citizens of Kano. Go to Kano and see how many Igbos have vast of lands doing their businesses. We went for a medical outreach in Kogi State, seeing Fulanis deep into the forest. Many of them do not even speak. I needed an interpreter because my Fulfulde was wobbly. They don't speak Hausa. They speak only Fulfulde and the local dialect. They've been there generations, long before, and I took on Governor Autumn, long before he was born. The Fulanis all across this land, they've been peacefully grazing their cattle. You want to change a way of life by draconian law without having fallback. It's just like this removing fuel subsidy without. You don't do that. What you do, okay?
Yeah,
everybody wants a ranching, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. How many Fulanis are in this country? Where are they? How many cattle do we have? Where are you going to do that? Which states will provide land? If generations of Fulanis have lived in the Igbo land or Oyo State where you come from, so you're asking them to leave Oyo because the governor of Oyo State will not provide them land? So what do you want? Right, Ogun State. So what do you, right, good. So what do you want the governor of Kano or Katsina or what to say about Igbos? Go back home? People need to be very careful. There is so much.
What's your proposal? What are you proposing
It's
as
not,
a solution?
look, it's not a problem.
No, it is a problem. I
No,
disagree with you.
I will tell you. I will tell you this.
I disagree with you.
I will tell you. You can disagree all you want.
Herders,
no, you
no,
can.
Prof,
you
hold
can.
on, hold on a second.
Let me tell you.
Hold
No,
on a second,
let me
Prof.
finish.
Hold
Let
on
me
a
finish.
second. No, hold on a second. I disagree with you that it's not a problem. It's a big problem.
Right.
It's not just a problem. It's a big problem because on a daily basis, herder farmer killings have been splashed on newspapers.
Good. Since when?
In Benue, in
Good.
Plateau,
What I'm
in
saying,
the southeast,
since when?
in southwest.
Okay, you ask yourself.
Hold
since
on,
when?
Prof. The reason why the late governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, spearheaded, as a senior advocate that he was, the start of Amotekun Corps, was because of, herder farmer killings. And it's all over.
Good.
So I disagree with you vehemently that it is not a problem. It is a big problem.
Okay, I will tell you this. Let
What
me
is the solution,
let me
Prof?
tell you. No, I have to give you an analogy.
Okay.
Drug problem.
We're
Let me
running
say.
out of
No,
time,
no,
Prof,
no.
so
Look, I have to tell
I
you.
will still have a
No,
couple
no,
of more
let-
questions. Yes,
let me
I'll
tell
allow
you.
you, but
No,
be mindful of time, Prof.
It's nothing but ethnic cleansing. I'll tell you.
Who's
Let me
cleansing
finish.
who?
Allow me to finish.
Who's cleansing
There
who,
is a
Prof?
huge drug problem in the north.
Okay. Yeah.
Where does the drug come from?
Yeah. From outside of
No,
from
that's
all
not
over Nigeria.
from the south. Drug comes from the
Do you
south.
have facts
Oh
to
yeah,
back
there
that
are
up?
facts. Look, there are facts.
Facts,
Don't be
not hearsay, not rumors.
No,
Prof.
I'm old enough. I'm exposed enough, educated enough not to talk about hearsay. Facts.
Okay.
And we see the effect it's having in our society. And we see the effect it's having on banditry. We don't, our people...
Even I would counter that.
Our people...
The Nigerian borders, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, is so porous, drugs coming to Nigeria from everywhere.
Now you're talking blah, blah, blah. I went to the forest.
Prof,
we went to the
with due respect,
forest.
I'm not talking blah, blah, blah.
No, we
drugs, Nigerian insecurity is porous all over Nigeria. Our borders are porous.
Now you are talking. Allow me.
Drugs are coming in from
Not
everywhere.
true. Drugs come from the south, and I have evidence.
No, I disagree
We were in the forest.
But Prof,
we were in the forest. No.
Give me a 1 minute. What's the solution to herder-farmer killings or clashes? What is the solution?
Herder-farmers clashes is the responsibility of local leaders to reconcile societies. We have seen that. I'll tell you. We went to Cotton Carfe. The leaders there. No. We have leadership.
You are saying cattle grazing through open lands should continue. Nobody should stop it.
No, you don't understand. It has been there for years. What happened over this year?
This is
not
1960s or 70s.
What happened?
This is 2024.
Well, the drugs we are having in this country, in the north, that is killing our people. No, the drugs that we are having that is killing our people, that's fueling banditry and Boko Haram is coming from the south.
Prof, I'm so sure there's no southern Nigerian that is listening to you that will ever agree with you that we should allow open grazing as it is currently to continue.
Okay, then
even I have lots of you Fulani as my friends, lots of Northerners as my friends. I will never support continued open grazing to continue. I will never support it.
So then how do you do it?
Ranching. Ranching is the way.
Will you give land? Will you give land? Do you have land to give?
Absolutely.
Do you have land to give?
This proposed bill, the only way I disagree with the proponent and those who are supporting it is that insertion that states that have land. No, all the states have land. All the states of Nigeria have land, and they must give land.
And let me.
But the way to go.
Okay, they must. Who will make them do that? Nobody. Not even the president. No. You don't understand.
If it becomes a national law, if it becomes a national law, they are bound by it. But Prof, let's move on.
No, they cannot.
Let's move on, Prof.
The federal government cannot legislate.
Let's move on.
Cannot legislate for the state.
They can.
No,
let's move on, Prof. Let's move on.
You don't.
Let's move on. Let's move because of time. Tertiary education. You're an academic, a world-renowned academic. The president believes that by setting up the NEL fund, the students' loan scheme, and putting a paltry, maybe, I don't know whether it's 10 billion or whatever billion he puts there, that he solved the problems in our tertiary education. What do you think? 1 minute.
The point is that the president is not educated.
Why?
He hasn't been to school.
He's an American educated accountant. Works in mobile. I knew him at Mobile Oil.
You have his certificate?
He has a certificate.
Look, my friend, let me tell you, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
We need to not, the letter I wrote, the paper I wrote the last time was deception, destitution, and hopelessness. This is part of the deception of this administration.
Prof.
You cannot, allow me.
Okay.
Education is not a joke. Okay. You and I are beneficiaries of education, and that's why we're here talking.
Yeah.
Our parents did not do that, but our country that has the right to educate did that for us. But here you are. You are removing subsidy on education, subsidy on fuel, subsidy on this, subsidy on this. And then you put paltry amount of this in that, and you say, oh, you've solved education. What have you solved? You've solved nothing. We are very educated people. We cannot be bamboozled. We cannot be bamboozled, and we are product of the stewardship of our leaders past.
Absolutely.
None of people in this government can look at us in the face and think they can bamboozle us. This is nothing but deception. Absolutely. And no nation can continue to live on fumes of deception and the destitution they are putting us. Get real. Our people are dying.
So
there is hunger in the land. We're killing our people.
The student loan scheme is not the way to go. It's not even scratching the surface. I agree with you on that. Anyway,
I'm not even
Prof, let's take this one because we're totally out of time. The House of Reps last week, I think, also passed a resolution. The Senate, the House Committee on Security or National Security, I think, passed a resolution that the presidential fleet that's the fleet for that manages the presidential, the aircrafts for the president and vice president, that they are unserviceable. And so I'm mandating the executive arm to procure 2 brand new aircraft. I was aghast. And most Nigerians, from the feedback I'm getting, even from my colleagues on the various TV networks, what's your view on this? What does this show about our leaders? What does this show?
I'm at the end of my tether. I really am. I mean, the irresponsibility in governance when we have this.
People dying of malnutrition.
When we have our children like you see.
Yeah.
Like you see in Gaza Strip, South Sudan, or Afghanistan, this is irresponsible governance. We expect peace? I mean, this is not worthy of my answering them.
Absolutely.
Who passed the bill? Is that committee? Who is the chair of that committee? Where is he from? The chair of that committee is from Borno State. Borno State has more people that have malnutrition. Who is the chair of the committee of the Senate on national security who came and was supporting this? He is from Bauchi State. So fellow Nigerians, go look up the chairman of these 2 committees in the House and the Senate that are supporting and proposing that we buy 2 new aircrafts, one for the president, one for the vice president, when we have our children malnourished. Come on, people.
Yeah, your point is well taken. I actually told a friend of mine that it is beneath me to actually get involved in that conversation.
This is irresponsible governance, period.
Absolutely. Prof, as we conclude now, everything we've talked about boils down to leadership, failure. What stops somebody like you, and I'm sure some other person will say, even you, but Wale, number one, how we recruit our leaders is broken completely. Because I think we have leaders who have no values. Even if we could say they're educated, some of them are, but it's obvious they don't have values. But how do we get sufficient quantity of leaders who, I mean, let me say whose heads are screwed properly in sensitive positions, in leadership positions? How do we do that?
Right. So democracy does not end beyond
elections.
Get involved. That's why we're getting involved. We must get involved.
Would you contest for office 2027?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Give me the ticket for the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
You need to go slug it out. Nobody's going to hand it over to you.
I will beat...
No, you need to go slug it out.
I will beat Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You think so?
I will.
No, who knows you in Nigeria? Beyond people like us who are educated, who knows you in the villages?
Anyway,
they don't know you in the villages.
That's a joke. But fellow Nigerians, the point I'm making, forget the joke. The point I'm making is our destiny is in our hands.
Absolutely.
We cannot allow this irresponsible leadership to continue. All of us must get involved. We must go beyond just dropping our, casting our votes. We must ask our leaders to be more responsible. All the governors, all the 36 governors, without exception, they are acting like pharaohs. And the president is just there doing his own thing. In a country where we have these malnourished children, for goodness sake, if we don't do that, God Almighty will ask us, what did we do when our people were going through that? Because silence in the face of evil is itself evil.
It's complicit. Complicit. Prof, I think we have to leave it there today.
Thank you.
It's been sometimes heated, but you know, there's no dull moment with you. And I appreciate your coming, as usual.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you again very soon.
Thank you.
Now, that's the end of the interview session. Like I always say, change requires action. Positive change requires positive action. Before I go, let me also remind you that we seek for partnerships in terms of sponsorship of this program to keep this very interesting program on air. If I wasn't the anchor or producer of this program, this would be my best program. So we solicit for your kind support to keep this program on air through sponsorship or advertisements. And follow me on my various social media handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. This particular episode, the full-length version of the interview, will be on my YouTube, on my TikTok. Subscribe to them so that you can watch the full-length edition of the interview. Drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And then I'll see you next time. Bye for now.